Hello and welcome to I Have No Idea What I Am Doing, a fortnightly show all about learning. This episode is all about getting shit done. It's got to be a slightly different format to normal. There's got to be some cutaways, there's got to be some kind of time-lapsey type stuff, but it's because I want to get as much done in the 30-minute episode as possible. And this way I can just get a lot out of the way and avoid showing you some of the repetitive stuff so we can get on with the learning. This is a video series, so if you've not started watching it from the beginning, I suggest you do so. The playlist will be popping up just about here. You can carry on from here if you like. The repo is structured in such a way that you can pick up any episode from any branch. They're all tagged with the specific episode name. Don't hold you for too long. This episode is all about getting things done, so let's get some things done.
As I mentioned earlier, today is all about getting shit done. So let's have a quick look at what we currently have and where we can go from there. So we've got an automated testing suite up that tests our only getter, which filters the deck cards. It tests our mutations, which flip a card over and move a card from the deck to the hand. That last one actually can move a card from anywhere to anywhere is the idea. We also have, if we look at the actual app, a card list component that renders a list of cards, and we've hooked up the mutations and the getters to that. So the getter is filtering out all the cards that are tagged with hand and all the cards that are for the deck and putting them into two different card list components. And it's currently set up so that if you click on any card, it sends it from the hand to the deck, or the deck to the hand. I can't remember exactly which way around this goes. But it sends it from the white card pile to the black card pile. So clicking on getting this party started pulls it out of this pile and puts it into this pile. It's just down here. Now, this has helped us with the learning, but the app, it doesn't. It's not really that exciting, and it needs a bit of cleanup. So here's my plan for this episode. I'm going to show you in sketch format because this is pretty much how I think. Right, what we have currently is a card component. Okay, so we don't have a card component. We have a card list component that is a series of these cards. And we can see that here, and they just display like this. Now, card list is nice and generic as it's just a list of cards, but we'll need to display cards slightly differently depending on what kind of list they're in. So what I mean by this is a deck of cards will not display like this. It'll be face down for a start, and it'll be one card. A player's hand will be face up to the player whose hand it is, but face down to the players whose hand it isn't. So there's different types of card list basically. So what we kind of want to achieve, if I just move these cards down here for now. In fact, I'll get rid of these cards. And what we do want eventually is we want a play area, and then inside that play area we will have player hand. So this is the hand of the current player of you essentially. I also want just up here a deck. And if I just make this area a little bit bigger, so we've got the player hand down here, and then the deck, and then in the middle, the sort of, in fact, let's call this play area, and this the table. So play area, deck, and player hands are all lists of cards that are slightly different. So we would have the deck would display a face down card so that we don't know what's there. The play area will display a series of face down cards, which are cards that the face down or face up cards, depending on what point in the game we're at, I guess. And the player hand will show a series of face up cards for us to click on to move into the play area. So I want to, instead of just having a card list component that renders a load of cards, I want to have a card component that is imported into player hand. So player hand will have a card, and a card, and a card, and a card, and a card, whatever. And then when they play one of these cards, it'll go into the play area. And then when it gets removed from the play area, it goes back into the deck. And similarly, when a player tries to draw a card from the deck, it moves into their hand. So we need a card component that just renders a card. We've got all the styles for that already in the card list component. They just kind of need splitting out. And then we need different types of card lists, or a player hand, a play area, deck, whatever, that can set certain props on these cards to manipulate them slightly. That's the plan. So the first thing we want to do really is split the card out of the card list. So we've just got the single card, and then we're rendering a list of cards in the card list. So where do we start? Let's start with the card list component, and I'm just going to actually duplicate that and call this card. And in the template, we can get rid of the actual list. We've got some errors here. I don't know why we're getting errors, but we don't want a v4 anymore. On click, I will leave that in for now. We don't need the key. The class, yeah, that can stay. And the class of card, that can stay. Card.faceUp, that's fine. Card.text, that's all fine. Let's just pull that in. Map mutations. The card itself is going to be fairly dumb to the mutations, so we don't need them. The card won't have any methods as of yet, which means I should probably remove that too, actually. Cards compute, again, don't need that. Card type and location. What we are going to do, we're going to be a lot more explicit with the props. So we want to have face up. We want to have not card. Right, yeah. So we don't want that either. It's just a div with a class of card. Yeah, so we want to know if it's face up. We want to know what the text is. Is there anything else? Nope, that's all we're using at the moment. That might change. So the styles are still scoped. We don't need the card list anymore. This can all stay the same. Card black can go because we're not using it. Text and back is still fine. Right, so that's card.view done. Nothing should change because we're not using it. So what we want to do inside card list.view is we're looping through all the cards in the data, and we're generating this div and we're applying these styles to it. What we want to do instead is get rid of a lot of this. I'm going to leave it in for now, but get rid of a lot of this, and we just render a card and then we pass down the appropriate props to the card. So if we have a quick look at app.view, it's not too dissimilar to what we do here, where we import the card list component, tell the app about it, and then we just say, right, I want a card list here, and then pass down the props to use it. So in the same way that we have in app, I am going to import card from card.view, and down here for components, card, is that the right syntax? No, it's an object that we want. So there is your card component. We've got no errors. We're looking good. Now in theory, if I do card, in fact, I'm just going to move this actually, card, call that card. We don't need them anymore. Can't read property face up of undefined. Yeah, so we're getting some errors. And that's just because we're not passing down the correct properties. So the key v4 needs to be the same, so we need to repeat for every card in the cards array a card. On click, I'm going to leave that as is for now. The key we need to keep. The class, get rid of that and that class as well, because they're handled by the card component. Now, what props did we ask for on, that's app.view. We asked for face up and text, so let's have a look at them. Face up and text. Now text is the card.text, and face up is, it is in the data currently actually, isn't it? I think it's just that. Well, that's a point. This doesn't want to be card.faceUp anymore. It's just face up. And that doesn't want to be card.text. It just wants to be text. Yeah, because they're on the props now, so we just pull them in as normal. So we've got face up and we've got text, but in order to so what this will do here is this will set the property to the string of card.faceUp and the string of card.text. So the card text in here will literally be card text. In fact, if I save that, I might be able to show you. There you go. So it's the string of card.text, which isn't what we want. We want the reference to the card.text. So that's where you just do the colon, and it tells it that we want, you see even the syntax highlighting's changed here. We want the actual text from the card. So as you can see, everything is rendering fine, and as before, we're still rendering the card list. We just have the card in here, and in fact we can probably do a little bit more cleanup on the card list. Yeah, so all of these styles can go. We don't need them because they are on the card itself. Card type, I'm going to get rid of that. It's a lot of rubbish. It's not the right way to do the card type at all. So let's get rid of it now. So yeah, so we now have a separate card component. You should be able to see that in the Vue DevTools. We've got a card list with a series of cards, and all of these cards have text assigned to them and whether they're face up. And that still works. You can see on this face down card here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create the 3 different types of card list components. So I'm going to keep the card list component as is, because it's a nice way to just reference all of the cards in a list and be able to see them all. But I'm going to create 3 different components: a play area, a deck, and a player hand, and all of them are going to house the cards and display them slightly differently. I'm going to do that. It is a bit of a time lapse because you don't need to see me create the same thing 3 times essentially. So I'll see you in a bit. here we go. So I've gone away and I've created the 3 components. I've not done the styles yet. I think I'll do that in a second. I just want to talk through where we are with these and what's happening with them. So you can see here in the Vue DevTools, we now have 3 components. We have the hand with a series of cards, we have the play area with a series of cards, and we have the deck, which is only rendering 1 card, but we'll get to that later. So, as we did in the data before, it's the same list of cards, but they have different positions. So we have player 1, player 1, player 1, deck, deck, play area, and some player 2 ones here as well, which I'll show you in a second. So this hand component, I've written it to receive a player ID. So I'm passing it a player ID of 1. So it renders all the cards that are in player 1's hand. Similarly, I can change that to, say, player ID of 2, and it shows me all the cards in player 2's hand. It looks very similar to the card list component, and that's because it is really. If we look into it here, I'm spitting out the player ID in the top just to show you that it's the hand, otherwise these would all blur together. I am creating a card component for every card in the cards array, keying on the card ID as before. I'm also passing the card ID to the card now. I added that in, it's not being used right now, but we're probably going to need it eventually, so we might as well pass it down now. The text is also been passed down, and the face up is set explicitly to true. So regardless of what this value is here in the data, face up will always be true for the player's hand. The script is pretty much the same as it was earlier. So we have player ID prop is new, which allows us to pass in the prop up here, saying whether we want player 1's card or player 2's cards or whatever. These IDs will be unique IDs and be a little bit harder to guess when we actually build the full proper back-end system for handling all the different players and things. And then the computed cards, we just use our getter from before to get all the cards where the player, the ID is, the position, is player underscore and then the player ID. So yeah, that just gets us all the cards in that are tagged with player underscore and whatever the player ID is that we passed through as a prop. And you can see here the next one is play area. Now play area is very, very similar to the hand. We've set a title, we've got a card list still, we look through all the cards in cards, we key the card ID. We also want to be adding the ID there, I forgot to do that. Face up this time, instead of being like in hand where it was hard coded to true, face up is now set to reveal. So what that does is it pulls out the reveal prop on this element, and if reveal is true, so we want to reveal the cards, then we tell all the cards to be face up. If the reveal prop is false, then we tell all the cards that we want them to be face down or not face up. And yeah, card text, we pass through the card text as expected. And again, we use the getter to get all the cards in the play area. So, where are we? Play area, yeah, so they're revealed, they're face up. But before they're revealed, what we want to do, if I go back into app.view and I say reveal is false. Now the play area, all the cards are face down. We don't know what to say. So this is for like when all the cards are put into the middle before we're ready to turn them over and see what they all are. In fact, I'm going to leave that. That's false. That's fine. Now the only one of these that's rather different to the other card lists is the deck. And you can see there's only one card here and it's face down. But if we look at the actual deck component, we can see that there are 2 cards. There's not 1, There are two in here. We've got librarians and we've got everything, which is a very confusing name. So what we've done different with the deck is when you have a deck of cards, it wants to be anonymous. You don't want to know exactly how many cards are in the deck. We might be able to do some things with the styles later that shows whether the deck's like full or running low or whatever, but it's not overly important. The point with the deck is that it's face down and it's anonymous, and you just draw the top card, whatever the top card is. So what we've done, instead of looping through all the cards as we've done here with the V4, we just say we render one card component. Face up is set explicitly to false, and we pass down the ID of the first card in the cards list. So if we need to do anything with that top card, that card component has its ID. However we decide to handle these. And again, the getters for getting the cards is just the same as all the other ones, but we say we just want the cards in the deck. Because it's not card list, I've removed the styles here, but I've left the tag in because we're probably going to want to add some styles in a second. So there's our three different card list types. We have the deck, we have the play area, and we have the player hand, and they're all pulling in the card component. What we're missing at the moment is some styles. It still looks very similar to the card list before. So again, you don't need to see me styling everything. I'm going to do another quick time lapse, and when I come back, I'll go through what I've done. There we are. So we've got some basic styles in there now. Again, they're probably going to change later on, but they help to differentiate between the three different styles. So we've got the deck over here in the top corner. We've got the play area up here with the three face down cards because we've not yet revealed them. And we've got the hand down at the bottom. So we can hover over each card and see what it is a little bit better. So nothing too fancy here really. It's just a good way of showing that these are different things and we can start to style the cards differently even though they are using the same card component. I've put a little drop shadow on there as well to give it a little bit of zazz. So one thing that is missing from this that we previously had and we should bring back is the ability to move cards from one pile to another. We have we want to be able to click on a card in the hand and move it to the play area. We want to be able to click on a card in the deck and move that to the hand. We want to be able to just do a couple of things for moving cards to different places. So we can use exactly the same mutation as before. We just need to hook it up in exactly the same way as before. So I'm just going to do a bit of a cut here, and when I come back, it'll all be done and I can talk through it. And we are back. You may have noticed that it is a new day. I am wearing a lovely pink jumper today.
I have added the mutation back in.
And now whenever you click on a card in the deck, it moves it into the hand. So now the deck's empty, so the cards have disappeared. And all the cards are either in the hand or in this play area here. And similarly, clicking on a card in the hand moves it into the play area. And the play area behaves a little bit different as the first click reveals all the cards, and then the second click puts all of them cards at once back into the deck. And then again, clicking on the deck brings everything into the hand down the bottom here. This wasn't too hard to put in, really. I'll show you how it's done. So the hand is probably the simplest one. What we've done is instead of using map mutations, we've used the store.commit directly because we want to hard code the destination in here, and it looks a lot better than having it all inside the card component itself. So what we're doing is we're creating a method called playCard, which gets passed a card ID, and then we commit to the store a move card to mutation. We send it the card ID that we've been passed and the destination of play area. And then what we can do is we can just use this to say play the card with card ID, and that'll just move it to the play area as defined in this method here. Now what's slightly different about before, if you remember, we had, was it v-on click equals like that. This is similar. So the @ symbol here is just shorthand for v-on. So that just becomes @click. But for some reason, I'm not overly sure why. I'm going to look into this though. You can't just call @click on a custom component. I could call it up here on the card holder, or I could call it on any of these divs, but I can't call it on the card. But adding .native on the end seems to fix that. There's a little bit of documentation on this in the docs, but I couldn't quite get my head around it, so I'm going to reread them with a fresh head in a minute and see if I can work it out. But basically all you need to know is add in @click.native enables click events on a custom element, and then you can just say use this method, pass the card ID, which we get from looping through the cards. Deck is similar but different. So because we're not looping through the cards, we have a native click that just says draw card with no parameters passed to it. Because what we want to do is we want to commit a move card to thing again, and we've hard coded the destination here. Obviously it'll be different in the game because there'll be more than one player, but this just shows like a proof of concept for now. And we've also kind of hard coded the card ID. We're just saying pass it whatever the first card in the list is and give it that ID. So again, because we're not rendering all of these cards, we can't say pass the ID of this card because this isn't the card. It's just a dummy card back. It's not actually referencing any cards in the data. Also, a side effect of that I noticed while I was doing this is if you run out of cards in the deck, it would still show a card because we're not looping through the cards to display them. We're just showing a dummy card. So I've put a VF on here on cards.length. So if there are no cards, then we don't show the dummy card. If there are cards, then we show the dummy card. So that's, again, fairly simple, a little bit different to the hand, but nothing too complicated. And play area is different again, because if you remember, we have this revealed attribute. I have moved that from the props because it doesn't make sense to set it on the props. I just had it as a prop before to show you that we could toggle it. It's now inside data, which if you're from React, this is basically the state, and we just set the initial state of this data to be false. So it's false by default. And then when we run this click.native, we have a ternary operator here that just basically says if revealed is set to true. So if they are revealed already, then we clear the play area. If they're not revealed, then we reveal the cards. So we've got two methods on this one. We've got reveal cards, which just sets this .revealed to true and reveals the cards. And we've got clear play area, which has to loop through each card in the cards data. And then for every card, we commit a new mutation of move card to, and we pass it this card that we're looping through and send it to the deck. And then after all that, we send this.revealed, set this.revealed back to false. So there's three different ways of handling moving cards, but it shows quite well how the mutations can be used in different ways while still being exactly the same function. It's still just a move card to function that takes a card ID and a destination. but we can hard code various different things and deal with them in slightly different ways inside the components to get them to do slightly different things. So this is almost resembling a game now, you see. We can draw from the deck, we can play our cards, we can turn the cards over to see what them cards were, and we can send them back to the deck. Now, the eagle-eyed among you, I may have noticed a bit of a flaw in my implementation of this. So that's to do with the ordering of the cards. They are always in the same order. We've got eating people, onions, blasted in the face, everything, library. In fact, to show you this even easier, I'm going to change the card component. And instead of rendering the text, I'm going to render the ID. So we've got 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then if we send off 1, 5, and 8, they're in order still. They go to the deck in order, so we'll receive 1 first, and then 5, and then 8. Even if we send it 9, 8, 7, it still comes in 7, 8, 9, and then goes to the deck, and then comes in 7, 8, 9. It's because of the way we've set up the data. So if we go into cards, the array order never changes. So whenever we're just filtering them arrays for the different hands, they're still drawing from the same array. So they're still going to be in whatever order this array puts them in, regardless of what order they are moved from one array to another. So we're not just pushing something on at the end, which would maintain the ordering. We're actually just toggling a flag up here.
I am going to cut myself short there. Basically, I went down a few different routes with the data to try and get it so the ordering stayed the same and that the data was still fairly sensible, but I didn't really land on one that I was happy with. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave that as an exercise to you lot. If you can think of a good way of getting the data in place so that we can do all the lovely stuff that we're doing now, not have to duplicate cards, not actually moving them between arrays, but to keep the array order so that when a card is played to the deck, it goes to the bottom of the deck, not just where it previously was in the deck. That would be awesome. I'll do the same myself, and I'll come up with a nice way of doing it eventually, but pull requests are definitely welcome at this stage. We got a lot of work done today. The app is in a much better place than it was previously. There's still a few things to do, obviously, before it gets to the final product. I want to start adding in the Firebase stuff and getting the real-time data working, but realistically, I shouldn't be doing that until I get this ordering of data issue sorted. So next episode, I don't actually know what we're going to be doing yet, but I will figure it out and I will let you know. If there's anything in particular that you want me to look at, then drop a comment below and I'll certainly take a look at it. I've got a bit of a shameless plug as well. We're putting on a conference in April this year and we would love it if you could attend. Keeping it short and sweet, but it's going to be an awesome day and it's only about £125. So if you're from the UK, if you're from the north of the UK especially, get yourself along. I'll try and make it pop up in the corner, but I'm not sure if I'll be allowed. Thank you for watching. I have no idea what I'm doing. This episode has been a little bit different to normal, but it was all about getting things done, and there was a lot of things that I'd already done before in one way or another. There wasn't too much learning, so I figured the time-lapsey, cut-away type thing was the best way to do it, to avoid repeating myself too much and getting as much done in a half-hour episode as possible. If you agree, hit the like button. If you disagree, also hit the like button. Seriously though, if you do disagree, let me know in the comments, and we'll avoid doing episodes like this in the future. As ever, you can add any comments below, contact me on Twitter at FrontendNE, or add an issue to the repo that should also be in the description. This is a fortnightly show, so the next episode will be on the 20th of February. To be sure you don't miss it, hit the subscribe button below, or follow us on Twitter at FrontendNE, and we'll tweet out whenever the next episode is available. And remember, I have no idea what I am doing.